I know me personally, I don't sign up for pain. So when you are having painful intercourse because of vaginal dryness, it kind of makes you not want to have sex.
Now I got a question. Is your private summer causing you to be dry as a desert? That's what we're talking about today on Healthy Her After 40. Sexual issues that occur around and during menopause.
Yes, girl. That Sahara desert that you may experience, better known as vaginal dryness. Now, better vaginal dryness can lead to painful intercourse, right? So let's talk about why you got vaginal dryness. Now, did you know that estrogen is what keeps your vagina moist and lubricated? So, unfortunately, during this menopause years or even perimenopause, when we start to lose estrogen, that's when we can be less lubricated when you have intercourse. So, this estrogen deal, it not only keeps your vagina lubricated, it also plays a factor in your orgasms that you may have. So those two things in combination causes you to have a painful intercourse. Now,
Now, this is not a game. This
no,
is not a
not
game.
at
Y'all
all.
heard her? Pay
Mm-mm.
attention. Pay
Yes.
attention. It's not a game. Carry on.
So when you look at the decrease in estrogen, a lot of people think, oh Lord, I'm in perimenopause. As soon as I get to that menopause, just like that, my vagina is gonna be dry. No. And it thankfully decreases over time. So you will find women who at the beginning of menopause or that perimenopausal stage, remember perimenopause, the time before you totally go into menopause. Now, during that time, you'll see a decrease. It may not happen every day or every time you have intercourse. Even when you first go into menopause, it may not happen every time, but over time, and the further you get away from menopause, that's when your vagina gets drier and drier because the estrogen is slowly, going away. So it's not going to be overnight. So don't be alarmed. Tomorrow you're gonna have a dry vagina because you don't went to menopause. But the longer you're in menopause, unfortunately, it can get worse.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about what to do because nobody wants to be dry as a hair desert. So there are things that we can do. You can actually start on over-the-counter products. Number one, over-the-counter products you can start. Easy to do. I do have some recommendations. There's one, it's called Replens. That actually is over. You just take it just as directed. And that would help give back some of that moisture to your vagina. It's not an estrogen product or anything like that. So it's over the counter for you to try. You can also try lubrications. One of the ones that I personally recommend to my patients over the counter is something called Astroglide. It comes in a purple and white box on the same aisle as KY. Now, some people do use KY, but it can kind of it dries out fast. So depending on the situation, like halfway through, you may not feel as lubricated. So a lot of people complain that it doesn't last as long. And other people have tried like some of your oils. I've seen people try olive oil and things like that, but you have to be careful because sometimes trying those different lubrications can also affect your vagina. And then you'll come and see me because you get a yeast infection or bacterial infection. So just kind of be careful. I've had the better success with Astroglide.
And the other thing with those oils and that too, if your partner is those other oils can affect the effectiveness of condoms.
Exactly.
As well. So you can't just be dipping everything up in there.
Exactly.
Every drip drop can't be in there.
Exactly.
Lots of other things.
Because it will decrease the efficacy of condoms. And then you go into estrogen, like a estrogen replacement, because basically you can replace what you're losing or what you have lost. Now, estrogen replacement from a vaginal estrogen replacement, they come in lots of forms. There are creams, just like when you think of like a yeast cream. There is a peel that you can put that comes on an applicator. There are like little ovules. So there's a lot of different formulations of the estrogen. So it is something to talk to your provider about, because there is a estrogen component that you can use. Now, I also want you to know that you're not alone. A lot of people have this issue. You would say between 12 and 45% will experience some form of vaginal dryness during their lifetime. You normally will see it more in patients who do not have hormone replacement therapy. So, for example, if you're taking hormone replacement therapy already because of other menopausal symptoms, like maybe like hot flash or things like that, then you're actually treating two birds with one stone, because you're giving yourself back estrogen for your hot flash, but also help your vagina. So it's normally the women who are not on hormone replacement that you will see will have the vaginal dryness, because they don't have that replacement going on. Okay.
That makes sense. That makes
Yes.
sense.
So I don't know anybody. I know me personally, I don't sign up for pain. So when you are having painful intercourse because of vaginal dryness, it kind of makes you not want to have sex. So we now got to talk about decreased desire, or better known as decreased libido, which can also occur during menopause. So, number one reason, also, gotta love that good old estrogen. It plays a part in everything. So, one of the key things, when you see the decline in estrogen, it makes the brain, some of the brain areas less active. One actually is the one that holds dopamine, which when you decrease that decreases your sexual arousal. So that plays a part in everything. Okay. So dopamine is our friend, you know what I mean? And estrogen kind of decreases that. So that's kind of the reasons why. And also painful intercourse too. I mean, yeah, nobody wants that. Okay.
And then too, just the circumstances, everything else that's happening during menopause. You're not sleeping, you're hot flashing, you're moody, you're all these other things can impact. You just don't even feel like
being bothered. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So many things.
You're hot at night, you're not sleeping well, you got insomnia, and the last thing you feel like doing is having sex, because you're already hot and bothered throughout the night. Yes. So, and again, this decreased libido is a real thing. It affects 40 to 50% of women have complain of a decreased sex drive in menopause. So women, you are not alone. Okay. Now, when we think about decreased libido, we kind of think it's like, oh, just not having sex, right? Like, I just don't want to have sex. But you have decreased libido if you think less frequently about having sex or have less sexual fantasies. That's also a sign of decreased libido. Of course, showing less interest of sex is kind of common. If you do have interest in having sex, but you don't necessarily reach orgasm or have a difficulty having an orgasm, that's also decreased libido. Of course, like we talked about before, painful intercourse is also kind of, feel a discomfort. That may lead to a decreased libido.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Losing interest in any type of sexual activity, including masturbation, that also is a sign of decreased libido. Or also, when you think about if you're just feeling sad about it, like some people are like, oh man, I just don't feel like, and it affects that way. So it's also a sign about decreased libido. So it's not just the lack of the physical act of having sex, even the thoughts of having sex, the thoughts of being with your loved one, things like that. All of that is a sign of decreased libido. Okay. So now let's talk about how you treat that. Okay. So, it really depends on what is your issue. We just talked about if it's a pain issue. We kind of talked about already some things of what you could do. Now, if that doesn't work, you don't get the satisfaction from starting maybe estrogen or lubrications, then there are some drugs that you can try. One, there's a drug on the market called Addy. Now, unfortunately, women, our drugs are not like the men. We cannot pop a blue pill and want to be aroused. That is not how our body works. And so, therefore, unfortunately, it is. unfortunately, it is a medication you have to take every day. Now, one of the things, it's also unfortunately only has an FDA indication right now for for people who are in that perimenopause or have not officially went to menopause.
Mm-hmm.
There are sometimes, I do know some of my counterparts that we will still give it to postmenopausal women, but you do have to talk to your provider about that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Another drug that has become kind of favorable in helping increase desire is testosterone.
Yeah.
And that comes in a lot of different forms. But again, talk to your provider to see if that is okay for you to use. And so unfortunately, in the decreased libido situation, it is a little harder to treat. And it will take time. Even if you try the testosterone, if you try the Addy, things like that, it's not going to be like, oh, you take it today and tomorrow. It can take a little bit of time, depending on your situation, to work. If it's other things, sometimes counseling works. Sometimes there's actually counselors for sex counselors. And sometimes you and your partner may need to go, or you may need to go, and that can actually help in talking through things and things of that nature. But it is harder to treat.
So, and that's the thing. I mean, connecting with a provider that you trust to help tease out the reason why. If you've lost the desire, then working with somebody you trust to be able to speak freely about it to help tease out the reasons for it, right? And then you can guide the treatment and have targeted treatment that's specific to your reason.
Yes.
It's important.
So that is important. Definitely very important. Another drug that's on the market that is a little newer is called Vyasi. It's to treat but of course it's for before menopause treatment for decreased libido. So there are some drugs on the market. But you have to talk to your provider. Now, on the drug, the VZ, we don't really know the mechanism of action. So it's kind of like it works. So it's something to definitely try. It's not suitable for women, though, if you have a history of high blood pressure or any cardiovascular disease. That's not a good drug for you.
Now, why is it that both drugs are only indicated for perimenopausal women? What is the rationale for the cutoff in the season or the phase?
I think it's really on how they study the drug. Unfortunately, there are quite a few drugs when it deals with women in general that depending on how they do the study, dictates how they get FDA approval. So I think in these cases, it was easier to sometimes get approval on the perimenopausal side than the postmenopausal side. So I think that's not to say they may not come out with another indication, but right now they don't have that indication.
So there's no specific contraindication, but it's just based on the group that they study, and that's why they can only specifically state that it's targeted towards that demographic.
Correct. And it happens with a lot of things in the women's healthcare. You look at even just totally opposite. You look at the patch for birth control. They say that for women only on the highest weight was 195. Why? I have no idea, but that's just what it is. So I think it just happens in a lot of, unfortunately, the things that are in the women's health side of the thing. Also, lifestyle changes can help. If you get regular exercise, sometimes those endorphins can help. Quitting smoking, eliminating alcohol, and then also, of course, stay clear of products that irritate your vagina. The vagina don't like everything. So if you're like, using products that are, have scents and things like that could cause more irritation and cause more like your yeast infection, bacterial infections, and then that will also lead to the painful intercourse. Of course, like the things we always say, your diet, your weight, things like that. You can also try to help in your orgasm situation, like do pelvic floor exercises. There is also something called pelvic floor physical therapy that you can actually, your doctor can send you to. So just helping your pelvic floor can sometimes help in the orgasm situation. So that's something to definitely go by. Oh, and one thing, I'm so sorry, y'all, on the sexual dysfunction situation, lubrications, I did forget to say it was one. There's also a very good lubrication, but it's actually it's a prescription strength. So also not only about the Astroglide, which I do really love, there also are prescription strength lubrications too if the Astroglide doesn't work for you. So ask your doctor if you want to go lubrication route, because they can give you a prescription for some lubrications too.
Good.
Yep. So yes, y'all, it's a real deal. And you're not alone. That is the biggest thing I want you to get through. You're not alone. Talk to your provider. You know what I mean? Because there are a lot of things out there that we can help you with. So don't feel embarrassed or anything like that as far as the sexual dysfunction, because it is a real thing. I get this probably every day about somebody who has painful intercourse. It is very, very common.
It is. It is. And these are things that we talked about, these seasons of life, and
yes,
there's relief, and you don't have to suffer in silence.
No.
It's a real deal. So thank you. We hope that you can apply some of these techniques and you utilize some of this information. So don't forget, subscribe so you can have a seat at the table. Join us in these good conversations.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us today on Healthy Her After 40. Bye for now.
See you later.